there's no doubt Hollywood is absolutely filled with sexual abusers of men, women, children, you name it. I have been contacted over the years by some of the people that are now going public, and I'll just leave it at that. And I don't have the lawyers or the time to prove what they're saying, and so I passed on breaking all this. Not with this particular guy, but with some of the other people. I'll just say this. Some of the names listed in the John Bounds report that's coming up are people that have contacted us. And reportedly, they've been killing people that report on this. And that's not why I haven't reported on it. It's just that I can prove that the government's buying 2.6 billion rounds of ammo and thousands of armored vehicles, but the media says I'm lying. I can prove under the Emergency Centers Establishment Act they built FEMA camps, but the media says I'm lying, even though it's documented. I can prove that they ordered a stand down in Benghazi, but the media says that didn't happen. I can prove that there's a $5,000 fine per employee that you have in 2014 if you don't get insurance for your employees or lay them off or cut their hours. But the media says that's not true, even though it's happening and in the bill. I can prove there's death panels. They say they don't exist. I can prove under the Night Stalkers, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and other secret FEMA programs, there are black helicopters that are radar resistant with a special paint. That's been declassified for 20 years, but the media says it doesn't exist. So real stuff we can prove people aren't ready for. So I'm just going to be honest with you. This is one of the things that, I mean, I remember it's got to be 10 years ago, David Icke on the show saying, I know BBC presenters that rape children and their dead bodies, and I know a member of Parliament who became Prime Minister who slits children's throats when this person delivers them, and this person hangs out with the royal family and brings them children. And David was about to say their name on air. He told me off air, and later on his own website said Savile, J.Savile, and I'm like, people heard these interviews. These interviews are online. I'm like, no names, no. Because, I mean, it just sounds insane. All turned out to be true. I mean, he said J.Savile 10 years ago by name was having sex with kids, delivering them to the royal family, slitting their throats, on and on and on. And now most of that has come out. So I don't even know what to say anymore. I have trouble wrapping my mind around all this. So that's coming up as well. And at the bottom of the hour, after we take some phone calls, Bryan Singer sex abuse. Accuser names 3 more Hollywood bigwigs in lawsuit. John Bound filed a report called Triple X X-Men for the Nightly News last night. I want to air that here and give you my take on this situation. And again, some of the big Hollywood people that have gone public saying this have contacted our office 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but they didn't have proof. And I'm not going to break allegations if there's not proof. The police, though, won't do their job. That's coming out, the FBI and others. So that's why it's hard to vet all this. But when you find out that these guys are friends with admitted, convicted pedophiles, it starts looking real bad. Starts looking real bad. And, you know, I've been at big Hollywood parties and things. That's why I've been out there in years, and I won't go out there probably ever unless I've got to be in some big, you know, TV show or something I think's worthwhile. But, I mean, you be at big parties, and somebody's like, that guy's a total creep. And you're like, what do you mean? He's just, oh, man, he's, you know, and that guy likes kids, and that guy likes kids. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. And that's why I won't get anywhere near there, folks. And it's sick. And then you look at all the British ministers getting caught. There's a reason all this is coming out now, though, folks. I believe, not the people bringing it out, I think they're good, but the reason it's being brought out right now is to blackmail and keep Hollywood on a short leash. That's why they get these people to compromise themselves, Bohemian Grove, you name it. And the J.Savile in England, you know, David Icke was naming names 10 years ago on my show, and I said, do not name names. Because even though the guy looked like the archetype of a pedophile, the archetype of a disgusting degenerate, you know, David Icke was saying they were bringing kids into the Prime Minister's office to slit their throats. And then now it's all coming out. So I'm going to cover that at the bottom of the hour. Now, I want to get into a report that John Bound filed for the InfoWars Nightly News that airs weeknights, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Mountain or Montana time. I want to get into this, and I want people to understand that before I air his 3-minute report, I want to just give you a small smattering off the top of my head during a segment earlier, during a break, just to back up the rest of the story. In about 2 minutes, I told them to pull these articles. This is what I pulled in 2 minutes off the top of my head, just to add some other pieces here, so we're not talking about this in a vacuum. The number one thing that cements the globalists together when you get to the bottom line is pedophilia. I have seen, no exaggeration, in 19 years on air, thousands of news articles out of the Sunday Times of London and Le Figaro of France and Der Spiegel, where there'll be huge riots in different European countries, sometimes 2 million people on the streets in places like Denmark. I mean, you can look up the famous cases where they'll find little kids in dungeons, a bunch of them dead, some of them alive, run by the national judges and the national police chief with snuff films. And the Washington Times exposed the Finders case run by the CIA in D.C. with satellite uplinks and all the snuff films and dead little kids, and the FBI came in and shut that down. First, the FBI exposed it because they caught a van full of kids being transported to Florida. The FBI raided it, and then the CIA came in with the FBI higher levels and shut it down. I mean, this was in the Washington Times. I interviewed the FBI agents involved, folks, that were in there. They said it was just unbelievable. And then they were under national security, blocked from releasing. All they could talk about is what was first in the news. So when I see a story about pedophilia in Hollywood, dealing with 10, 12, 14-year-old boys, that's bad, that's terrible, that's horrible, on the casting couch. And that's why I won't allow my children to be involved in acting or show business. It's just a horribly nasty, evil culture, on average. But when we start talking about all this breaking with Bryan Singer accuser names 3 more Hollywood insiders in new sex abuse case. You know, the former head of Disney. The list goes on and on. We're about to go over all that in a moment and name names of who's alleged to be a pedophile and who's been admitted to be a pedophile. The thing is, these guys associate with known pedophiles. And you look at J.Savile and the rest of them and all the deaths surrounding him and the royal family. I'm going to cover some of that and then get to John Bound's article. The point is, it's not just children. I remember in 2008, an article on the Sunday Times of London about Burgundy, France, and a national park castle. It was a Rothschild former castle, where women escaped from a dungeon who looked like concentration camp victims, went to the local regional police office. They raided it, found all the dead women and other women in cages at the castle. People ought to look this up. I'm just telling you just a few of the hundreds of cases of literally thousands of articles, and then it got declared national security and shut down. I mean, when you see movies like Hostel and all this, that's what the globalists are really doing, folks. They've got trillions of dollars stolen. They were into evil and psychopathic and have no qualms about killing 1 million plus Iraqis just to get their oil and for weapon sales, or destroying Libya for al-Qaeda, or destroying Syria and destabilizing the whole country. It's not that they don't have qualms. They enjoy it. So you have to understand, the entire system is filled with scum. And it runs from yes men and people that just serve authority who are stupid to mercenaries, control freaks, sickos, sadists, right up to the top, pedophiles, psychopaths, mass murderer types, until you reach the very top. And they are absolute worshipers of total death and destruction, nihilists who want planetary extinction when you read their poetry and writings. I mean, the very top is just like the entity from the Fifth Element that just, is working through Zorg and just wants to come destroy the Earth. I mean, basically, that movie's telling you something. And all you Zorg wannabes need to understand, what you're opening the gates to will destroy everything if it has its way. Now, I want to be clear. I always feel like I'm not doing something justice, because to come on the air and say pedophile rings run the planet sounds pretty wild, but you notice it just keeps continuing to come out. And they infiltrate every institution, the Catholic Church, Penn State. Of course, it turns out a bunch of the faculty was involved in a cover-up. You don't think Sandusky was raping little kids in there in broad daylight at noon on a Saturday, and it wasn't authorized. Sandusky, through his charity, was supplying small children who were troubled so they could deny they had problems to the elite. You notice a bunch of Homeland Security people are involved. You notice they keep getting busted with little kids. And they'll burn a few just to scare their own people, or they'll burn innocent people occasionally. This is how they operate. Most of the Pentagons had child porn loaded on its computers. And they tell people, just do what you're told, you won't get in trouble. But I didn't. Well, look at the porn. Doesn't matter. We could jail you if you don't do what you are told. I was told 15 years ago by former CIA commander and former Senator John DeCamp that Penn State and the Boys Town was a pedophile ring. It later all came out. Let's get Senator John DeCamp back on, who exposed the Franklin cover-up. My point is that I'm an expert on this. And I can tell you DynCorp runs child kidnapping worldwide. It's come out in Congress. And I was death threatened when I was first breaking this 8 years ago. Very serious death threats. They were giving me stuff on the phone and in parking lots threatening me that they would only know if I was under surveillance. And they said, we're going to kill you if you don't shut up. Well, I doubled down. DynCorp is the biggest CPS contractors in the country. They run most of CPS in Texas. Private contractors. That's a fact. Look it up. So let me just show you a snapshot of what I had them print during a 3-minute break earlier in the hour. I threw off some names, said pull it up. They pulled up what I said. This is just a small smattering. We're going to skip the network break. It's too important. Stuart Hall's sentence for sex attacks on girls is doubled to 30 months. Court of Appeals rules former BBC broadcaster's original 15-month jail term was inadequate. Reportedly raping hundreds of girls. Named by David Icke, who worked at the BBC more than a decade ago. Let's continue. Experts, pedophiles in Hollywood, even bigger problem than in Corey Feldman's day. Corey Feldman's gone public. His friend was reportedly killed. We've been contacted by Corey Feldman before his book even came out. And we talked to him, and I just said, look, bring your book out, then I might have you on. And it's just because I'm not doubting you. It's just that I've got huge issues to cover, and I can't get destroyed for something that I can't prove. Well, now he's come out, and nobody sued him over it, so we're ready to have Feldman on. In fact, contact him. He contacted us 2 years ago. Let's get him on if he wants to come on. Peaches Geldof faces police investigation after naming moms who allegedly offered babies for pedophile rocker. Well, now there's been convictions. It's turned out it was true. What happened to her? Peaches Geldof dead. Post-mortem set for today. An unexplained and sudden death. Go public, you die. She had a soul, though. She's with God now. You better believe it, folks. Now enter Bryan Singer, sex abuse accuser, names 3 more Hollywood bigwigs in lawsuits. You look at the players, you look at their whole history. Yeah, I look at this guy's testimony. I believe he's telling the truth. But I can't prove that. It's still alleged. Except for some of the people connected are convicted pedos. You take one look at them, they got that look in their eye. Now, before I get into that, look at this right here. You've got celebrity arrest could soar after horrified police discover Jimmy Savile's secret lair at Record Shop, a secret dungeon behind a fake wall. Then they convicted his butler with this, his driver, who then turned up dead when he was set to testify against him. Look at this, against others. Savile's convicted pedophile BBC driver found dead on day he was due to stand trial for sex crimes uncovered. See all the deaths? I could keep going. I could keep going. See, here's the problem with covering any issue. People think, oh, that's just your opinion. Pedophile rings run things. They've continued to find dead babies of children, dead babies and children in and around Sonoma County at Bohemian Grove. You know, I was there 2 years ago with the History Channel and Metzler's Decoded, I think it's called. I was on a couple episodes. I only watched one of them. I'm on a whole bunch of those shows. I don't watch hardly any of them. And we're in a theater during the day, and they've got the plastic original alien, one of 5, from the movie Alien, 1977 or whatever, 78. And then that's in there, and the place is really dark. It's a horrible vibe. And the people that are working there go, we're lawyers for the locals, and we know who you are. And I'm in there, you know, with the Grove leadership, and I think you're the problem. And I told them, I said, we're supposed to infiltrate today? They already know everything. They're going to come after us. I said, you're in a major nest here. I go, look at all the satanic stuff in here. And I go, look at how they're looking at me. They are mad you're in here interviewing me. We weren't even talking about how we're about to infiltrate. And the director was wearing a CIA hat and messing with me the whole time. And then we go down the river to infiltrate, and they were waiting for us when we got there. And they all got arrested. And I said, I'm not going to jail. I jumped in the river, got out of the kayak, swam underneath when the police cars were on the other side, holding my cell phone up the whole time so I could call Aaron Dykes to come pick me up on the side of the highway. So, you know, I got away. I didn't go to your stinking jail. Anyways, long story short, then they made them basically whitewash the whole piece so they wouldn't charge them with trespassing. And I think that was all staged. We were led right into it. The point is that, sounds crazy what I was describing. It was a really dark place, man. And most of the town is operating for them. They're in Sonoma. They're on the Russian River. And it's the same deal. And little kids get found dead all the time around there. Some famous cases with Polly Klaas and others. And then you get the reports out of the Franklin cover-up of the snuff films. It's just, I just can't handle it. And you need to understand, folks, we're dealing with pure evil here. And basically, when you're in the town right outside the Bohemian Grove there in Monterey, it's like you're in the little town below Dracula's castle. But they've all been bitten, or most of them have. I mean, I had a fire department. This is on video in an expanded Bohemian Grove Order of Death we put out. If you get the DVD at Infowars.com, it has both the original film and the new one on it. And you see the fire department, they find out who we are, and they bow up. And it's the same deal. I mean, you're in a restaurant, and they go, you're Alex Jones. And they go, we don't like you, we're not serving you, get out of here. And we're like, well, our camera's in the car, and I should have just confronted them. I mean, you go to that town, they work for the castle up on the hill, and they know it. And nobody wants to talk about the dead kids. Nobody wants to talk about the satanic rituals. Nobody wants to talk about it. And then people make jokes about it and go, oh, there's nothing going on there. Well, yeah, during the 2 weeks that it officially goes on, most of the people there aren't devil worshippers or pedophiles, but they get all the actors and directors and the people they're into to come there, and they ship in male prostitutes and top gay porn stars. That's in the news. Watch my films, and they do, you know, have gay sex there, and that's just the intro into it, though. And then they break off and go to other camps in the area. And so that's the gateway into this whole situation. And anybody that tries to expose it ends up dead. And this is how this pedophile cult of devil worshippers, they're not just pedophiles, they're usually devil worshippers. It's come out, J.Savile was and others, with secret dungeons. And they think this country is theirs. And not all the CPS, most social workers are actually good people. I've run into the people that help old folks and others, or social workers that help teenagers are usually pretty nice. But statistically, and criminology handbooks will admit this if you take criminology, people that try to work around kids have the highest instance of being pedos because they're then in the system and know how to cover it up. Truancy officers, CPS, you name it. These are the people statistically the ones that are in control of the kids, that you got to watch. Now, let's go to John Bound's report, and we'll come back with your calls, Bob and Xander and Bob and Kylene and others. And then we've got the Northeast Intelligence Network coming on with some very important intel. But right now, here is John Bound's report. This is the type of reports you see back-to-back every night, 7 o'clock Central at prisonplanet.tv. If you're not a member, support the hardcore journalism here. Now, here's his report just on the Hollywood situation. Here it is.
4 powerful Hollywood moguls were accused of committing the sexual abuse of teenage boys in 1999. They include X-Men director Bryan Singer, former president of BBC Worldwide America and former head of programming for Fox, NBC, and the WB, Garth Ancier, Gary Goddard, the head of a Los Angeles design group, and former president of Disney TV, David Newman. Mr. Newman previously worked with the ringleader of the perversion, Mark Collins Rector. Mr. Rector is a registered sex offender that pled guilty in 2004 to luring minors across state lines for sexual acts. The accuser is Michael Egan, now 31 years old. He claims that when he was a teenager, he was given money and threatened to keep quiet about the events that took place in Hawaii and Los Angeles, or he would be eliminated, along with his family. However, Mr. Egan claims to have reported it to the police and subsequently the FBI in the year 2000, but no action was taken. Mr. Egan's lawyer, Jeff Herman, has until April 24th, 2014, to file additional charges against additional alleged perps in the state of Hawaii. Thursday, April 24th, is the cutoff date for past sexual abuse cases to be filed under a 2-year window. All of the sordid details will be coming out in a documentary by Oscar-nominated director Amy Berg, nominated for Deliver Us from Evil, her expose on sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. The accusations have sent a shockwave of regret through Hollywood, as bigger names may be revealed for what they truly are. Sexual abuse of minors by Hollywood big shots is nothing new. The 2 Coreys, Feldman and Haim, recounted how they were abused by executives. Corey Feldman says it led to Corey Haim's untimely death. Well-known actor Jeffrey Jones was arrested for possession of child pornography and accused of soliciting a 14-year-old boy to pose for pornographic photographs. Oscar-winning director Roman Polanski was hunted for years for the rape of a 13-year-old girl, eventually ending up doing time in a Swiss prison. The perversion in the British entertainment industry is just as flagrant. BBC presenter Stuart Hall was jailed in 2013 for 14 counts of indecent assault against girls as young as 9. BBC radio personality Freddie Zapp was accused of sexual assault of a female, and of course, we all know of J.Savile's unrelenting abuse of minors that spiraled out of control for years while authorities looked the other way. There are 1 million children exploited every year in the global sex trade, a $32 billion industry that has ties to the highest levels of government. The time has come to reclaim our dignity from the sick, elitist cancer that is rotting the very core of humanity.
That's John Bound's report from InfoWars Nightly News last night. If you are not a PrisonPlanet.tv member and are not supporting true, independent, hardcore, liberty-based media, you're insane. Become a PrisonPlanet.tv member today. Share your membership with up to 11 people. Get involved in the info war. Your phone calls, then our guest coming up. Back in 1 minute. Bob, we got a bunch of Bobs on the line. Xander, we're going to all of you. Your phone calls. The final point I didn't make about the global pedophile Luciferian devil rings running the planet is that top psychologists have said this. You can pull up the news articles that the TSA groping of children is pedophile training and should be illegal. It is illegal. The state of Texas tried to enforce the law. The feds threatened a blockade of the state. And that's why this new video up on drudgereport.com from Infowars.com is so important. TSA agents pat down 2- and 6-year-old children. And it's continuing, even though they said they've stopped. So there you go. They kind of backed off for a while. They're back. And I'm not saying the TSA people that do it are all pedophiles. I'm saying the practice is a joke and a fraud when the government runs al-Qaeda. Here's the Daily Mail article. Benghazi attack could have been prevented if U.S. hadn't switched sides in the war on terror and allowed 500 million of weapons to reach al-Qaeda militants. The government arms al-Qaeda, but says your 2-year-old's diaper has to be checked. This is about training you that you're a prisoner, period. And it's run, and it's a directive that comes from the pedo-run federal government. This country's in deep trouble. This world's in deep trouble. But it's so horrifying and so evil, people come face to face with it, and we can't admit it.